let's look at some dudes who are underperforming. It's going to be rad. Michael Bolton. Are you bodacious?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I'm a mechanic. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky, joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to save $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com. Find the best newsletter for your favorite NBA team. That is LockedOnDaily.com. Sign up for free over there. Double bang this video as well. Go and check out our live trade deadline show Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Go and hit a thumbs up on that now. Go do that. Make sure that is in your diary, calendar, whatever it is. You can go bookmark that and you are ready to go. We are here on World Nutella Day. I'm so sorry, Nutella. You pronouncing your name as Nutella. It needs to go. It's not real. And maybe we should have an intervention on this day. You know what it's made out of? Nuts. It's not made out of hazelnuts. It's made out of nuts. Also, Nutella, it's bad. It sucks. It's not good. Yuck. Chocolate Nutella hazelnut spread. Yuck. Nutella, get in the bin. Nutella, also get in the bin, but at least it's pronounced correctly. We're here to look at buy lows and sell highs. Would you like a explainer? I'm going to give you 5 names. Are they the only players who are buy lows? No. Do you have to trade for them? No. If they're on your team, do you panic? No. Simple stuff. Easy. If you get a good deal on someone, you do it. If you don't, you don't. If you don't want to, you also don't have to. This is just more of an indication of, hey, I think there's some stuff here that might change. And we'll go through the individual specifics of it. But if they're on your team, all good. Probably going to improve. Not guaranteed, and not guaranteed to happen immediately. If you want to trade for them, don't give up what you perceive their value to be later on. You don't have to have them. You don't have to get them. You can if the value is correct. I see this bandied about in fantasy a lot, and someone will say, "No, man, this guy, it's more for sell highs." I go, "Oh, this guy's playing too well. You can't possibly trade him away." No, you actually can. You actually can if you get the right value. That's all this game is about. It's about accumulating value. Yeah, it's fun. We love the fun and we love the player that we like in certain spots and all that sort of stuff. But if you say, "No, this guy's too good to trade away," that's a complete garbage idea. Nobody becomes too good to trade away. Shout out to Luka Doncic. Nobody is too good to trade away. You don't have to trade away, and 99% of the time you won't. But if I come in and say, "Well, look, this is a spoiler for the Sell High show later on. He's not going to be on it, but we'll talk about him. Trey Murphy, who's rolling as a top 10 player. You say, well, he's too good, man. I can't trade him away. If someone said, do you want Nikola Jokic? You go, yes. Yes, please. Would you like me to give you Luka plus somebody else? Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'll take that. Thank you. So this idea of like, they're too good to trade away, or this guy's so bad, why would I want to trade for him? Exactly. Let's take a look at how we did on this show 2 weeks ago, and some of them were good. One of them was terrible, and it was Paolo Banchero, because I thought, yeah, he's a buy low. He's come back from injury. He's going to definitely be better than this. No, way worse. Way worse. What is happening with this man? He was 79th, and I thought, he can be better than this. Give me another 20 spots up on this, no problem. 167th since I did that show. I've got a couple of theories for this. One of them is implausible. He's a terrible player. That's implausible. He's not. He's quite good. The second thing is that it's a real down period in his efficiency. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Or maybe he's not fully healthy. That's the one that has to ring true to me, because, yeah, he's not going to be an efficiency monster. We know this. But bro can't get any open shots. He can't beat anyone off the dribble. He's got no burst. It's bad. The next ones, they worked all right. Evan Mobley was 70th. He's 49th since then. I think he can keep going up. Tyrese Halliburton was 61st. He's 23rd since then. W. Derek White, that was an easy one, and he did the reverse. Paolo Banchero, he was 163rd. He's 80th. I don't view Derek White as some do, and it is crazy for me to say it. I don't view him as this top-level player, and it's amazing that people still value him higher than I do, which, again, is a crazy statement, which would have been insane 3 years ago. But him at 80th, there's maybe a little bit more to tweak on that. And the last one is Alex Sarr, who just didn't move. Part of it is the fact that he's just missed games with the ankle problem, but 156th, and since then he's 157th. I still believe that he is going to be better than that as we move forward. So overall, I would say that it is a solid enough result from those buy lows. So let's do the first buy low. And I'm going to give you examples of why I think we can pull these off, or also even some areas to be concerned about. Because the first one I'm going to talk about is the big man in New York. It's Karl-Anthony Towns. And Towns has been a revelation. I was all about drafting Towns this season. I've got him on 2. Let's see, out of my teams that I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got 8 teams and Towns is on 2 of them. All right, happy with that result, 25%. He's on 2. It's been very good. And one of the teams that he's on is one of those team that is cooking everybody at an unbelievable rate. I love it. It's not good at the moment for Towns. He's averaging just 41 fantasy points over the last 2 weeks. He's the 52nd ranked player over that time frame when he's been 10th for the year. Also, I project him to be around 10th the rest of season. I worry that thumb injury that he suffered, that he missed no time for, is really impacting him, because we can see some things that are going on here. The man is hitting 21% from 3. This is the self-proclaimed best big man shooter of all time. Okay, you can disagree with that if you want. But he shot 42% from 3 this season and 42% from 3 last season. 37 the year before that and 41 the year before that. So he's got a pretty good track record, yeah. This 21% from 3 is either a real slump, and it's possible, or maybe the thumb is jacked a little bit. And that is a worry. That is a worry. Look at his other numbers. 0.7 threes a game. Okay, he's rolling at 2 a game this season. He's at 19 points per game. That is 5 fewer points per game. Minutes are exactly the same. His usage is a little bit lower. Is that a reticence because of the thumb? Maybe. He's not taking any free throws. 4 a game, down from 5.7. He's not taking threes. He's not hitting 2s. His true shooting is 53. Part of the appeal of Towns, especially in category leagues, is that he is a big man with elite true shooting. He's at 64 this season. He was at 63 last season, 62 last season, 64 the year before that. He's at 53 over the last 6 games. It is a huge drop. And really, this is it. He's not blocking shots at a big rate. He doesn't get steals at a big rate. His assist numbers haven't peaked back to what they were in his peak where he's almost at 5 a game. He just can't hit any shots. And I do worry it's his thumb. Now, he is slated to be the starter at All-Star Weekend. Maybe he does. But if this thumb is a problem, I would not be surprised. I don't know this, but I would not be surprised if Towns pulls out of the All-Star game or plays like 5 minutes and then sits because his thumb is jacked up. We've seen that plenty of times with players. And I would hope that week off, if he can do that, gives that time to heal and we get this rolling again. So what would I give up to get Towns? Not a first rounder, not a second rounder. This is what we're talking about buy low. You say that's ridiculous, Josh. Towns is like a first round player, top 10 player, and you wouldn't give a second rounder for him. Yes, correct. Because you know what? I don't have to have him. I can have him. I could get him. But there is a worry for me. The thumb remains jacked up all season. And even if he doesn't shoot 21% from 3, he shoots 30%. And the value is just not the same. And he rolls from here on out as the 30th best player. So I'm not giving up a first. I'm not giving up a second. I would consider a third. I'd like to see what else I can do. But it all depends on the level of panic of the manager. So part of the appeal, I believe, in these shows is that I tell you guys that I think are undervalued at the moment. But also, I tell you that if you've got the player, and if you've got Towns, and you're sitting there and go, should I just get rid of him? Like, I'm giving you the idea of, like, maybe not. Like, pull back. I think it's both sides. If you have a player, or if you don't have the player, you can try and get him. But if you've got him, it's like, hey, there's some things here that I think have some pretty obvious ways of being able to pull back and improve. But also, the reverse is, if I say I won't send a first round or second round player to get Towns, and you've got Towns, and someone offers you a first round or second round player, then maybe take it. That's how I would use that information. Of course, you can just ignore what I say, and that's totally valid as well, because what I'm trying to do is predict what happens in the future, and guess what? I'm not going to get it all correct. Shout out to Nick Richards. Let's move on to the next guy on this list. Oh, should we do that now? No, we'll come back to that in a sec, because today's episode, it is brought to you by the Game Time app. And if you're looking for tickets for your next big event, it might be a concert, might be a comedy show, might be a sporting game, a contest of athletic talents and wares. Well, the right ticket at the right price, it can be a headache. But with Game Time picks, It makes it easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff. It shows you the best options for the event that you want to go to. The app does all the hard work for you, curating the best deal so you don't waste time searching through endless ticket listings. You can go grab a super deal for a prime seat for a big event as well. The value on it is amazing. I'm about to go actually into Game Time Picks today because I'm trying to work out tickets for events because we're heading over to the States in a few months. There's numerous events we're going to go to. Some baseball games, Beyonce, some stuff in Vegas, Summer League. We'll be getting tickets, all this stuff. And Game Time Picks is where I am going to look. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets. Lowest price guaranteed. All right, legends. Let's move on to the next buy low player. And we have to have some worries. We'll see if you can guess who it is. You probably can. But we have to have some worries that this man is a little washed. There is a distinct possibility that is true. But I'm not fully believing that is true for Steph Curry. I acknowledge that he could be. It's been really bad. He was a tough one for me to evaluate in the preseason because I went, I don't like the age. I don't like the what the additional perceived usage might do to his body and health. I don't like that stuff. I don't like banking on these players at this age. And in the end, I think I had him, I don't really remember, but towards the end of the first round, I've reevaluated that. The usage has been up, but the shooting is not where it needs to be. He has had issues with his knees during the season, and I think that Curry might be able to be from here on out a second round player. Might. I'm not convinced of that though. He's averaging just over the last 2 weeks, 31 fantasy points. He is the 77th ranked player. For the year, he's hitting 4 threes a game, but he's at 22, 4.5, and 6. They're not elite numbers. They're good. They're not elite. They're not prime Steph. Of course, he's 36 years old. Is he? Yeah, no, he's almost 37 actually. So what is going on here? What is different? What can we expect to adjust? Well, look, he's averaging under 18 points a game. This is Steph Curry, man. Last season, he averaged 26 points a game. The year before, 29. His usage actually, I thought it would go up. Actually, I was wrong. It's gone down. 31 to 28. It's down. That, to me, suggests that he cannot handle the load. Giggity. But there's other stuff that's going on as well. I don't care what you think about Steph or about his level of washness. No one with a straight face can sit here and go, nah, it's actually pretty reasonable that he'll be a 30% three-point shooter from here on out. Because that's what's happening over the last 2 weeks. Right? That's illogical. He's old. He won't take as many shots. He won't get to the rim. He won't finish as well. All true. Right? That is, well, not all true. All possibly true. Steph, as a Kevin Porter Jr.-esque 30% three-point shooter, get that garbage out of here. So that's going to improve. His true shooting runs at 51% at the moment. His field goals are at 38. And yeah, he's only at 44 for the season. His free throw attempts are down. I'm not sure they're coming back. His steal numbers are down, 0.7 a game. But he was at 0.7 last season, so maybe the 1.1 for the year is high. He's averaging a ridiculous 2.3 rebounds. Now, that one I don't really understand because that's half of his season total. So if I look at all this stuff, like the steals, whatever, blocks, whatever, they might move, they might not. He's hitting 2.7 threes a game, that'll rise. The 3-point percentage, that'll rise. Therefore, the true shooting and field goals will rise. And I'm also pretty certain he's not going to run it at 2.5 rebounds a game. So what do you look at with Steph? You don't give up a first player, a second round player. You don't give up a third round player. He's struggling. The manager, then this is the time where there might be panics before your trade deadline in your league kicks in because someone with Steph might be sitting there going, well, what am I doing? Like this, is he washed? He's 37. He might be done. And they're desperate to make a move. There's a top. You give a top 50 guy, and you see. And if they don't want that, all good. That's always should be your idea on these trades. If they don't give you the value that you want in a trade, you don't have to do it. You don't have to push it and go, okay, well, here's the 28th best player for Steph. You don't have to. You just say, okay, thanks. Let me try something different. Because if you don't get value, it's not worth it. Now, there's always win-win trades, and we always have different valuations on players. That is true. But you don't have to do a trade. There's this idea that people go, in a league, you can't just only do a trade that benefits you because what about relationships with other managers? I mean, sure, that's true, but you don't just have to do a trade just to make somebody else happy. You can just be like, you don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to reject everything. You don't have to be like scamming at all points. But you don't have to just accept it. You don't have to give up way more value just to get something done, because you'd be in a better spot if you didn't do something. I don't see the point in that. Steph, I think, is going to improve, but I am a little worried. I am a little worried about where he is in terms of how this stuff bounces back. But there are a few things there, and that's, again, part of the way I like to analyze this stuff, is I like to look at stuff and go, okay, well, could the steal stay at 0.7? Yep, sure, easy. Could the shooting stay at 30%? No way. Like, that's just no way. And that's the same when I look at buy lows and sell highs. I go, I could conceivably see this. I couldn't for that. And that's how I try and assess this stuff. We'll go to Houston now, because the delicate dancer Alperen Sengun is injured. But he's also underperforming. And that's a great combination. I don't know that he's going to be out long-term with this calf thing. In fact, I'm pretty sure he won't be. He had a really, really strong run early in the season, and it's cooled off. And they have sort of changed away with the offense, and the minutes have dropped a little bit for Sengun. And all of that, I actually think, is probably real. He's only averaging 31 minutes a night. He averaged 32.5 last season. It's down. He's under 20 points per game this season. That's down. He is the 83rd ranked player, though, over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging under 38 fantasy points. All right? Those are numbers that I don't like, and I would like to see improve. So what's actually going on here? Now, no one will sit here and say, you know what I believe about Alperen Sengun? Great shooter. You know what else I believe about Alperen Sengun? Awesome defender. Nobody believes that. If they do, liars. They're all liars if they believe that. But they're the things that are down for Sengun at the moment. You might say, just that sounds counterintuitive. If you don't believe that he's a good shooter or a good defensive, or a good defensive player, and they're the numbers that are down, why do you believe they're going to improve? Because look at where they are, man. Look at these numbers. He's had 1 block in the last 4 games. The man is averaging 0.8. That's not a big number. But obviously, 1 block in 4 games is very different to averaging 4 blocks in 5 games. It's very different. He's at 0.8 steals per game. All right, again, is that a big number? Not really. But he's at 1.3 this season and 1.2 last season. So you're talking about a 50% increase. Or, if you want to frame it in a different way, and this is percentages and numbers can get so weird, that's a 50% increase, 0.8 to 1.2, or it's a 33% decrease. Go in the same direction, but it's all depending on, denominators. We're a big denominator respecter over here. And then he's not hitting threes. Is he a good 3-point shooter? Not really. He's at 0.3 a game. He was at 0.5 last season. He's hitting these threes at, what's the percentage he's running at? 20%. All right. He was at 30 last season. He's at 23 this season. He's not taking many. The usage is well down as well. That is worrying. He's at 23 usage over the last 2 weeks. He's at 26 for the season. There has been a definite change in Houston with some of the distribution of shots. So I am a little bit worried about that. But all it takes is a small flip of the blocks, a small flip of the steals, and then you're up from 83rd to 50th or whatever it is. So I'm not valuing Sengun as a top 20 player anymore. There has been a very clear change in Houston, and we adapt to those changes. You have to. I'm not going to hold on to my ideas from 10 weeks ago about what a player can and can't be. You've got to make adjustments. But even in making those adjustments, the way that we're seeing Sengun's numbers play out, I believe there's plenty more for that to improve upon. So what would I give up for him? Not a first, not a second, not a third. Like 50th, 50, around that mark, 60. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you'll say, well, that'll never happen. All good. That's okay. I'm fine with it. But panic managers, poor performance, injured. There are ways to go about it. Today's episode is also brought to you by BetterHelp. What are some relationship green flags that you know about? We hear about red flags all the time, but we don't really focus on those positive things, the green flags, which are so important in relationships as well. But you might not even know what they look like. And therapy can be a way to help you identify those things, actively practice them, and even embody that green flag energy yourself, whether you're dating or married, building a friendship, or it's just working on yourself. Therapy can help you form relationships that love you back. And therapy can help empower you to set the clear expectations and express your needs in relationships. And BetterHelp makes it easy by offering online therapy with over 30,000 licensed therapists to choose from. And if you need to switch therapists, you can do so at no extra cost. Discover your relationship green flags with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba today to get 10% off your first month. That is BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. All right, let's go through the last two names on the buy low list, and we're going to go to Orlando. We're going to risk it again after we did the Paolo one last week, but I think that we got to consider Franz Wagner in this mix. Now, I'm not saying that Franz has necessarily been bad since he returned. He's been pretty good. He's been fine. He's still 71st per game over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging 38 fantasy points. He averaged 40 earlier in the season. There is not necessarily an understanding, but you know that I interact with lots of people, and there were many people who were like, why can't Franz just do what he did earlier in the season, even when Paolo was out? Why? He's established himself. He should be able to do that. People thought that, right? So the fact that he's come back and he's not quite hitting that mark, there might be an ability there, because the reality is somewhere in the middle for Franz. It's not the level that he was doing when Paolo was out. It's probably not this level now, but there are some people who believed he would continue what he did when Paolo was out, even with Paolo back. And he's not living up to that. So there is a mark in the middle there. He's averaging his numbers for the season are ridiculous. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals. 46 and 87, they're great. Since returning, hasn't quite been as rosy for Franz. The scoring is great. He's averaging 27 points a game since he returned. That's obviously fantastic. That's more than his season numbers. That's good to do, but that's not what fantasy's all about, is it? It's not what it's all about, because he's only averaging 3 assists a game. He's averaging half a steal a game. He's averaging 0.3 blocks a game, which, again, that's not a big deal, but the steals are very much down. And he's shooting 26% from 3, which is really the concern from Franz last season. And after a really strong start to the season and a bounce back on his shooting, he's only at 31 from 3 for the entire year, which is a little surprising. I think most people would have thought he was having a better year than that shooting, but he's not. His 2-point numbers are pretty solid, but still not ideal. Not as good as they were last season. He rolled at 57 from 2 last season. His true shooting last season was 57.5. I think most people would say that Franz has been better and more efficient this season, and he's been worse. And I honestly, that was a surprise to me seeing that. So while the idea is that he's been better, he hasn't, but he can still improve a lot. The defensive stats can come up. The steals can double. The assists, we can drop 50% onto that easily. And what if we get a shooting spike? Because we are getting to the stage in the season. It's week 16 at the moment. We're in the stage in the season where it doesn't have to, you don't have to, well, he'll revert back and do this consistently. We don't have to do that. We're at a stage where we go like, hey, it's been cold with shooting. What if he just has a 6-week hot streak? That's all you need. What if he has a 4-week hot streak? You don't need prolonged reversion to the mean. You don't need prolonged regression. You need, okay, well, nothing's been going on good here. And this is not how this works. It's a little bit of the gambler's fallacy. It's not like, oh, you've been bad for 3 weeks, now you're going to be good for 3 weeks. Not always how it works. But it can. And it's all you need now. You just need a little short bump. You don't need him to be a 38% three-point shooter over the course of 6 months. You need him to do it for 6 weeks. Or even 4 of those 6 weeks. So we're at a stage here with Franz where his numbers since returning are not where they need to be, even though he's scoring well. The other stuff's not quite there, and I still believe that he's like a 3rd round, top 35 player, top 40 player. What if I got him ranked here? 34th the rest of the season. I don't know that you need to give up really anything near that. He's been, like I said, not at that level since returning. The fantasy points is a little bit harder because he's scoring so well. And if that falls back down, we know that the biggest influences in fantasy points leagues is points. Sorry, it's minutes and usage, but in terms of individual category contributions, it's points. Like, obviously it's points. Because the average of someone scoring is 17. The average of someone's assists are 3.5. The average of someone's rebounds is 6. So yeah, obviously, scoring is a bigger impact. So the fact that he's overperforming in the scoring category is probably keeping those fantasy points closer to where they should be. And if that falls back and the other stuff rises, there's no guarantee it hits back to 40. In fact, it might not. It probably will, but it might not. But I do think there is a bit of a window here. He's working his way back. The Magic are struggling. He is still like in a situation where people are going, especially if they're rankings adherents, that they'll be like, he's not quite hitting the spot that I want him to. And that's where I think you can swoop in. The next one here is, the last one is a little bit, I don't say it's fraught. I don't say it's dangerous, but there is a level of just be cautious because it's Christian James McCollum. Now, you know me and CJ, we have a tenuous relationship. I look at his numbers and go, there's no way that sticks. And then he does something unbelievable for 3 weeks. And then in that same time, something else that has been really good becomes the worst thing you've ever seen in the world. And I can never figure out where he sits. And he's on a team that's terrible. And that team might decide that he's going to get fake injured. I hope that nothing happens, but he's got a history of like multiple like lung issues. We hope nothing goes wrong there. I would be worried about this. But for as much as I can poo-poo what CJ does or be critical of some of his production stuff, he's 120th over the last 2 weeks. He's averaging just 31 fantasy points. DeJounte Murray just went down. And there are 2 ways to look at him. There will be some people who will be like, I'm not trading CJ away. DeJounte Murray just went down. He's their starting point guard. He's going to get more usage and more assists. And I agree with that. I think that's going to happen. He's only at 3.8 assists per game for the season. He's at 0.3 blocks as well for the over the last 2 weeks, and he's been this weird blocks guy that spikes at times, and we can never figure out what his percentages are going to do. So there'll be someone like, I'm not giving that away. Those 3.8 assists, they're easily coming up. I know that. DeJounte's out. The other side of it will be, well, DeJounte's out. What if they just shut him down and they let Hawkins and Boston and Alvarado run things, and then I just need to get something back? This is where it's interesting as a trade. Won't work for everybody. I think CJ can run 5 assists a game rest of the season, 5.5, easily. I think he's going to take a few more shots. Who knows what's happening with Brandon Ingram? I don't even know what's happening with CJ, whether he's going to be there or not. So acquiring him in a trade, we're talking bottom barrel stuff. And for some people, they will be aligned with my thinking here of like, these assists and usage, they're going to rise. And even if he gets shut down, even if that happens, the fact that I think I can get him with a low value player at the moment, maybe get 3 weeks of solid value. Maybe I'll get 3 weeks of top 60 numbers out of him. And then it's over. I'm good with that. Assuming I only gave up something small. And that's the difference here. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think CJ is rolling as a top 80 player rest of season. It's done. It's easy. Get him at all costs. I don't think that. I think there is a period where he might have a top 60 run. He might have a top 80 run. But I also worry that it just dies. And that's about the buy low. So it's one to inquire about. It's one to gauge the temperature of that person. Because there's got to be worries. There are easy 2 ways to look at it. More to do with DeJounte out. More likely that he doesn't last the season. And how you balance those things is how you have success in this and making the, do I or don't I call? And I know you'll be like, Josh, you hate CJ McCollum. I don't. You hate CJ McCollum. Why would you say he's a buy low? Because again, nothing's about love or hate or anything like that. It's about what's actually going on at the moment and how do we judge this stuff from an expected performance view. Again, I hope all that makes sense. So that is your buy lows. 5 of them. We banged them out. We're going to do the sell highs as well. Don't worry about that. But we had Steph, Karl-Anthony Towns, Alperen Sengun, CJ McCollum, and Franz Wagner on the show. And if you're here on the show, hit the thumb, hit the subscribe, double bang, leave your comments. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.